Okay, let me just, okay. So the first thing you want to do is make your image the right size. So go to Image at the menu at top, Image, drag down to image size, and make sure that this resample, make sure that is not, make sure it's not checked. If it is checked, just uncheck it. If you change your file size while it's checked, Adobe makes more pixels and fills in the information, and it does so badly. And if you go to print out your image will look pixely. So make sure resample's unchecked, and then type in 300. Now what it will do when I type in 300 is it will take the information that's in there, and instead of 180 pixels in an inch, it'll put 300. So the image size will go down because the existing pixels are going to be pushed into a smaller, more are pushed into the space. So if you watch this and I type in 300, you'll see it goes down in size. So there were 180 pixels in an inch, and now 300 are in an inch, so the image got smaller. If you had something that was 150 for the resolution and 8 by 10 and you made it 300, it would cut the size in half to 4 by 5. That's because it's not creating information, it's just reorganizing it. So make sure that you uncheck resample, make it 300. Next, make sure your layers are up. If they're not, go to Window, Layers, and bring them up. Ooh, I bought some other stuff up that I didn't really want. Let me just close that real quick. So you want your layers up, and then in the bottom of your layers, you see this circle that is half black, half white. Click on it, and we're going to do some adjustment layers. So first you want to look at your histogram, and you can use levels or curves. Let's go to levels first. And when I bring up the levels, it's going to bring up my histogram. If this doesn't come up, you can say Window Properties to bring it up, or you can click right on here. Now when I look at this histogram looks pretty good. So this represents black, this represents middle gray, and this represents white, and this is a continuation of black to white in your image. There isn't any real light color, so I'm just going to move this white over a tiny bit. I think that looks pretty good. If you want to lighten your image, you can move the gray slider over a little. If you want to darken it, you can move it over a little. I would say be careful about lightening things too much. That's something people do a lot. Now, if you notice, there's all these little eyedroppers here. This one is for middle gray, pure middle gray. This one's for pure black, and this one's for pure white. Now you have to have an image that has middle gray. I think that's like a middle gray. So if you feel like your image color balance is off, you can click this, and there we go. I'll undo it. It didn't make too much of a difference because I think the color balance on this image is good. But you can use it to click where middle gray should be to see if it shifts your color, because what it'll do is it'll look at any color contamination and it'll adjust automatically and remove it. Okay, so we did our levels, and that doesn't look too bad. I'm going to turn this little eyeball off. And now I'm going to click and grab curves. So here's curves. And you see the same histogram, and I can easily move this over to add a little lightness to my image. I don't want to overdo it. So what's the difference here? Well, here's the same gray slider. I can go and click on what I think should be middle gray. Let me click on a bad spot that shouldn't be middle gray. There, you can see how it corrected it because that wasn't actually gray, and it was trying to make it gray. So you want, if you're using this to click on gray, find your gray, click on it, set your color balance if you need to. I'm going to undo it because I think mine looks pretty good. Alright, so what's the advantage of this line? Well, if you look up here at this finger, you can click on this finger, and notice as I move it around, there's a little dot on the line. So I can click on the image and that keeps the dot there, and then I know if I lift it up that area gets white lighter. If I pull it down it gets darker. Lots of times just a subtle S-curve is good. You don't want to overdo it because you'll get weird color shifts happening. Subtle is always better. So that's my curves. That's my levels. My levels didn't really do a ton. The curves did a little more. I think I'll stick with the curves, so I'll just click on the levels layer and I'll hit this garbage can down here in the layers and delete it. Might have to, there we go, delete. Yes, I want to delete it. And then it's still there. I have to delete it again. Fun times. Alright, so now we're going to make a dodge and burn layer. And what you do is you go to the bottom of your layers, there's a little garbage can here, and then to the left of it is this plus sign. If you're on the Mac, hold the Option down. If you're on the PC, hold the Alt down and click on that. And you get this little new layer window. And what you're going to do is change the mode to overlay. Change the mode here to overlay, and then click Fill, Overlay, Neutral Color, 50% Gray. Hit OK. So nothing, it doesn't appear to do anything. I'll turn the little eyeball on and off. But if you look, it's, you know, it's this neutral gray color, and you have that color right now, right here in your toolbar. So let me turn everything on. So neutral gray in hex is 979797. So if you need to find neutral gray, you can type that in. If you go above, I'll move up from that on the side here. Now notice there's color over here, but as long as you're on this edge, you're fine. Hit OK. I'm going to hit B for brush. Here's my brush. Now, you always want to choose a nice soft brush. See how that has a soft edge? See how these have a soft edge? Choose a brush like that. A photographic edge is a soft edge. So this will lighten stuff because I have picked a lighter gray than middle gray. If you want to change the size of your brush on the fly, hit the brackets. So let me try and just there. You can see it really lightened it up a lot more than you would have thought. I'm actually going to pull that down a little. It's doing too much. So there we go. I lightened it up, and you can see over here on the layer there's slightly lighter gray there. If I want to darken something, I'll take it below middle gray. And I don't know that that's, let's see, the most interesting. So I'll make it darker there because I don't think that's super interesting. And again, keep an eye that things don't start to look fake and weird. Okay, so I'm going to change this to an adjust to dodge and burn layer. I'm going to call it. Okay. So we've looked at our levels, and we've kind of done the levels. We've dodged and burned the image. Now, the next thing we're going to do is put a sharpen layer on. Now to do that, you have to make what's called a stamp. And it's a group of keys that takes everything you've done and makes a copy. So this was my original. There's everything I've done to it. So to do that, on the Mac, it is Command Option Shift E. On the PC, it is Control Alt Shift E, and that's E as in Edgar or elephant or everywhere. Command Option Shift E on the Mac, Control Alt Shift E on the PC. So it just, I can turn everything off, and you can see it made a copy of everything I'd done. Let me turn these all back on. Alright, so we're going to use this layer to make a sharpening layer, and I'm going to call the layer sharpening. You have to do this when you're done. Do this when you are done with everything, because if you go back and edit it, the sharpening mask will look weird and awkward. So you do this as when you're done with all the dodge and burns and the curves and all that. When you're done with all that, do the sharpening layer. So we're going to go to Filter, to the very bottom where it says Other. So Filter in the menu to the very bottom where it says Other, and High Pass. So you want to be lower than 10. You want to see like the details of things, like the edges. You really don't want to see, like, color. If you see color, you're way too high on the radius. Okay. Move it down. I was seeing color in her lips. So you really kind of want to see these lines that are in your image, and hit OK. And now change it to Overlay. So if I zoom in, there we go, you can see, hopefully, on this video, how it's made it sharper, but it's overdone it. You're getting some pixelation in it, in the hands and stuff. So what you should do is go over here to opacity and pull it down. Let me try 36. That's a little better. Now it depends on the image too. Some of them might need more sharpening than others. It might be appropriate to make some look more, sharp, and some look softer. All right, so now we have our curves, or you can do levels. We have our dodge and burn layer, and we have our sharpening layer. So if I'm happy with this image, I'm done. Now remember though, you're supposed to turn one to black and white. So I'm going to click again on this and click and drag down to black and white. There, underneath the adjustment layers, there's a black and white one. And there we go, it turned to black and white. And we'll go over some other ways to make images black and white. So this one has a lot of red, I know from how seeing it previously, and I can turn this layer on and off, so you see there's a ton of red. So if I slide the red to the left, the red gets super dark. And if I do it to the right, it gets really light. So that's how these all work. The yellows, I can make them lighter. I can make them darker. But again, you want to try and keep things looking kind of realistic. I don't know. Yeah, there's not any greens in here. I didn't think so. I don't know if there's any. In the sky, there's some cyans. So I think I might make the sky darker just to make it more dramatic. Okay, there you go. So that is how you do the one. There only needs to be one that's black and white. So 2 will be color, 1 will be black and white. All of them will have the curves or levels, a dodge and burn layer, and a sharpening layer. Only one will have a black and white layer. You will make all of them resolution 300. And you will save them as a PSD to hand into me, and you put them in the folder you shared with me that says FO118. In the folder, you make a folder for them, call it Thinking Photographically, put that folder in the folder you shared with me, and I'll be able to see them.